It's preparing the stream, so I'm talking. We are about to be live with Michele Brangwen Dance Ensemble and these really super wonderful guests while YouTube is kind of getting its whole thing together. Ooh, and there we are. We're up. Okay, so we'll close that out. Okay, great. And where's the meeting here? Okay, there we go. We're back. We're here.
Hey.
So, great. Well, thank you everyone for being here. I'm just gonna quickly ask each of you to introduce yourself, if that's okay. And so we have Anders Mogensen, incredible drummer, joining us from Odense, Denmark, um, and Louis Porter, wonderful jazz musician and writer, scholar. So honored to have you with us, Louis.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yuritzi Govea, just gorgeous dancer who we saw in Orchid People, and Ursula Verduzco. Am I saying your name right? Verduzco? Verduzco. Beautiful, beautiful dancer, choreographer, poet. Um, so what a great group. So thanks. Thank you for.
What about me?
And Tim Hay. Well, we had him on the first. We had him on the first part of the live stream. So I just think that now more than ever, we all need art in our lives. To sustain us, to comfort us. I just think it's important that we keep creating art in this time. And so I thought it would be interesting to have a discussion just about the creative process, about what people are doing, about different solutions, different projects that people are working on, and just trying to find a way to engage people and talk about how we can create during this time and certain solutions. So so that's that was the idea behind this discussion. So I can just start off by saying that I finished Orchid People and I started doing these live streams and began a new project with everybody that we hope to premiere in December. And a friend of mine on a Zoom meeting said, don't you want to wait a while before you do another project? Like, aren't you exhausted? Like, don't you think you should stop? And I said, you don't understand. It's keeping me alive. It's keeping me from having a nervous breakdown. I have to like start creating something again because that's what's sustaining me. So so that's my you know story with the creative process. That I just and I'm happy to answer any specific questions about live streaming or the equipment we used or anything like that. So I'm just going to open it up. Would anybody like to talk about what they're working on or ask any questions or order a pizza or
Well, it's funny. I didn't really have a plan. Of course, none of us planned on this pandemic. And I had a particularly good season of performances planned. I don't know how many of yours got canceled, but I had 16 performances canceled and a lot of very good gigs. New York, Boston, mostly Northeast, but good things. And on top of that, they were mostly things where I'm a side person. So it's not like I can book them again. You know what I mean? I just have to hope that if and when things ever open up, those things will come back. But then slowly but surely, I like to say the phone rang. It's always text or email these days, but the phone started to ring because I am also, as you know, very active as an educator, and I've been getting a lot of invitations to teach. And the thing about teaching for me is that is a creative process. Even if it's something that I'm very familiar with, like I did a 6-week course on Miles Davis, uh, I challenge myself to try and teach things about Miles Davis that you can't find just anywhere. and to put together materials that I have and kind of try to put them all in one place and try to sequence them. And sometimes you come up with new ideas. I'll just tell you one, and then I'll leave space for everybody else. But um, I'm also putting together a mini course on Coltrane. And again, I've been invited to do these things, and I am getting paid for them. So these are paying gigs. I even had 2 paying gigs playing the piano online. So it's when I do Facebook Live, obviously that's for free. But I've been getting a couple things that actually are real gigs. But they always say, this is just something that's like a thinking point. They always say that the great thing about Coltrane and his situation with his producer, Bob Thiel, is that he could do whatever he want with any commercial pressures. But in putting together all the information I have, including interviews with Bob Thiel, George Avakian, and other producers, it turns out Coltrane was under plenty of pressure to produce a hit. And that's why on every Impulse record, there's a kind of a follow-up to My Favorite Things. On the first one, there was Inchworm. On the next one, it was Chim Chim Cheree. So it turns out and then there was the Ballads album, then the Ellington album. So this made me kind of rethink that whole thing. So that's a creative process too.
Right. I remember there's a great book called Coltrane on Coltrane.
Yeah, that is a good collection. I'll tell you a secret. They asked me to do that book.
Oh, really?
And I said, I really can't see. It's not a good time for me to try to put together another book. But I know a guy, Chris DeVito, who would do a good job on that. So that's how the book happened. But
well, I think also,
But you were going to say something about something in there.
Well, I was just going to say that Lewis brings up a good point that I think is completely global, like for all the arts, which is just that I think also whether it's dance or theater or poetry or writing or that it's good to share information and actually that we can all help each other by sharing the things that we discover about the process, like what Lewis just said about from the outside it looks like something is one way, which meaning John Coltrane is completely, and then when you get inside you realize that there's other pressures there and other limitations and constraints that they had to deal with, and so I just tying what Lewis is saying also into this idea of us all sharing, because by sharing perhaps we can all find ways forward so that we can create together. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You were, I just I just got excited because I wanted to tie it in. So
yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just going to talk about that book is actually Coltrane on Coltrane. It's either interviews or reviews or articles on Coltrane where he is quoted. So, I don't know what the percent would be, but 80% of the book is his own words.
Exactly.
And so you get the feeling when you're reading it that it's really, his view on things. And he talked about that exact situation of he did. I don't remember him talking about it so much as pressure, but just he had nothing against playing something that was a little more popular and not as part of any kind of necessarily marketing thing to sell more records, but just because some people weren't going to relate to Ascension and some of the other things he was doing, and he thought it was a nice balance.
Exactly, which kind of goes against the kind of stereotype that people have,
Right.
And that ties in too, Michele, with what we're talking about. We're trying to reach people, but we're trying to be true to ourselves at the same time,
Right.
Yeah. I know for me, I don't like to talk about my work. I'd like to just put the work out there and see how, just let the work speak for me. So this is a new experience of of doing it quite this way. Ursula, I've seen your choreography. She's a wonderful choreography. She does a lot of really beautiful work. Are you working on something?
Yeah, it's taking me a long time actually to make it happen. I got somebody invited me to do a piece. They paired me up with a composer, and it took me a while to try to figure out what the whole piece could look like and be about. Like literally weeks. It's like right now my mind is has slowed down in such a beautiful way. It's fantastic. I literally feel like this new way for me of living and spending time. It's very, very different than the way that I used to live and spend time before. I used to leave my house at 7 in the morning and come back at 10:30 p.m. and the whole day was literally feel from one thing to the next one in a way that now I realize it was too much, too much. And believe me, I was already a person that, felt like was taking care of herself, but I don't think I really was. And so now in this new way of living life, I'm taking a lot of the things that I've been learning in the past months I'm trying to bring them into my world. I'm trying to bring them into what I now want to, the type of life that I want to have. So creating takes more time. Creating takes more thought and more introspection. And it's not like I didn't have it before, the introspection, but it was I had to have some kind of idea, and I had to push for it, and I had to run to do all the 20 million things that I was doing in the day, and then be creative, and then deliver a product, and then enjoy it while it happened, and then fast to the next thing, to the point that enjoying what I just created or enjoying the process was there, but it was in a very limited amount of time, because my interest was in producing more and not necessarily, and being busy with it, but not necessarily finding or stretching what I was creating. So this is taking me a long time, and it's not only because of that, but it's also because I'm working with some dancers, and that we all have a life to live. We all have a pandemic life to live.
Are you rehearsing online or in person?
No, online. I'm rehearsing online, and what we're creating, it's going to be a video that it's each dancer in their own home. So that's how I'm rehearsing it. But it's I wouldn't say it's a challenge. I mean, I'm taking it really easy, and I think we're all taking it very easy in terms of what is achieved. I have to say that probably the person that invited me to do it is going like, where is it? It's like they've been contacting me saying like, hey, hello, and 2 weeks later, hi. I'm like, sorry, but it's another world, and I'm another Ursula in a lot of ways. So no, but I'm closer, and it's so enjoyable, and it's also really informing my life, and I found a really good theme to talk about, and I'm excited about whatever and whenever this comes to life. I'm hoping at this point that it's not so long from now, because I also have to kind of rail the reins and just go for it.
I take a long time to create work too. I mean, a long time, and yeah, so I totally understand that it takes me a long time, and then but then also at a certain point, because I have a dance company and we have a schedule and so forth, I also sometimes have to like rein it in and just be like, okay, so you need to finish this and let it live, and then and then you can see, like, because sometimes you can't really tell what you've got until it's performed, until it's, you know, until it's up and running. And so, yeah, so we'll look forward to seeing that, Ursula, and glad that you're being creative. Yuritzi, you danced in Orchid People so beautifully and so amazingly.
I don't know how I did it, but thanks to you.
You want to talk about just your feelings about dancing during this time, and you know?
Oh my God. The first thing right there, it's gratitude to have this opportunity that you offered us, that I don't know, it's such a gift to have a group and you know, willing to reinvent in a way, dance, the work. And it's something you don't do every day. Like, I personally hated to learn things from a screen. And now I'm like, oh, okay, it's not that, you know, it's the pressure. No, yeah, honestly, I thought I wouldn't learn things ever from a screen. And now, I mean, seeing the video, what you created, and all the possibilities that are there to still create something that can touch people. And me personally, as a dancer, as an artist, that I can just have a space and a time to keep nourishing the artist in me with others. That is, comparing to what's going on in the world, I think it's medicine. And it's just a big, like, it's the rebirth of the way of you, how you're working and relating to such an art, you know, because music, I think music, singing, you can still do a lot with screen or live, but dancing, when you're so used to create in a room and just it's a training. You're in a four wall, usually, right, room, and you have a mirror. You look at yourself, you look at others, you look at the choreographer, you keep trying, but here you don't have space. You make it, you have to look at the screen, try to learn the music, and it's a different way of relating to the art, and just really exploring what's inside of you. And it's been fascinating, and I can't wait to what you're creating. Really, thank you for, you know, for keeping us there. But it's been very challenging, and at the same time, I'm just so grateful to still be able to move and keep doing this. Yeah, just gratitude. Thank you.
I'm grateful to have you, and I will say too that, you know, I've been choreographing. I've had this company for 20 years, so I've been choreographing for a long time. I don't ever walk into a first rehearsal not really nervous, because I never know if it's going to work, and I'm always worried. Is it going to make sense? Are the dancers going to like it? Is it going to feel good? Is it going to, you know, I never like walk in like, hey, you know, but before the Zoom rehearsals, I was just like, oh my God, you know, I'm going to teach this through the, you know, it added this other like layer of nerves in the before rehearsal. But then we would get into rehearsal and we would be laughing and joking, and Christian makes the greatest jokes. He's so funny, and we're all like cracking up and everything. And then we start dancing together, and I forget that the pandemic is going on. For that moment, I feel like I'm myself again, and it's just a wonderful, you know, experience to be able to have that within, you know, within this framework. So, you know, Anders, you are in a country that maybe has gotten its thing together a little bit better.
You know, we are socialists and communists over here, so we have got everything under control. Tim knows that. So don't worry about us. No, everything was closed down from, what was it, 11th of March, but then gradually things has been opening up, but then it closed down also actually this Friday, because things are a little crazy, so they're actually changing things more dramatically, and we can't travel that easily. I mean, I didn't travel anywhere. since this started. I've just been home waiting for you guys to call me, which I'm very happy about. I'm very honored to be part of this. I think it's been a great journey so far. I think it's been wonderful to play with it. I mean, there's also been some, I wouldn't call it nervousness, but challenging with the drum parts and stuff like that, and to get it out right and stuff like that, and make it work in both ends, if you know what I mean. But that's just, I guess, that's just a new world that will welcome very happily. So I'm very happy about the whole part of this. But our country here is, I mean, we're cool. I can go to gigs and I can play gigs, and
Wow.
I can also go to Germany, or I could go to Sweden if I need to, or Norway, something like that. So it's not that, but I mean, you might get in quarantine when you get back and stuff like that, but it's pretty easy going.
Well,
And we get subsidized from the government if we have problems.
That's similar. The subsidy is similar to what we call unemployment payments here, right?
Yeah, but how can I say, when I got all my gigs canceled,
Yeah.
whatever I could prove I had made the year before, I would get 75% back.
Believe it or not, it's similar here. People are
okay.
surprised, but we have a similar system. I did get money back for the gigs that I lost.
Yeah.
But the travel is a huge difference. You know, Tim, I know you and Anders have done a lot of things together. Anders and I only played together once. I was looking back in my files. I think it was 2006 over at the Odense Conservatory.
Yeah.
And it was with Bo Stief on bass.
Yeah.
You remember that, Anders?
Yeah, of course I do.
And Bo is great. I love Bo. And in fact, we are still in touch with each other on Facebook. And he told me just a few weeks ago, he said, I still remember we really connected, we have good, I wish I could play with him again, but the traveling is a huge problem now.
Exactly.
Well, and I think the financial thing too, I mean, since the is discontinued, then, now with the unemployment, it's just a very small portion of people's income. And I think did something freeze? No. The arts community is going to be very slow to get, back and running. We're still mostly spaces aren't open yet. So, so we're having that. And I mean, the thing about when we create, like when the ensemble creates, just going back to something that Ursula said, was that we really do take a lot of time, and we really do have a lot of back and forth, and sometimes even work in sections. Sometimes with this piece that we did, What Will You Do When You Feel Their Absence, which had music by both which had music by Thomas Helton. You didn't write music for that one. No. It was the Dancing the Blue Hour. They both collaborated. But so, we work in sections, and, Thomas will send me something and I'll start working with it, and I'll make some choreography, and then I'll send it back to him. And the same thing with Tim. And we just work back and forth really slowly to build it. So it's not like, like what Ursula was saying, you take that time for introspective and to put it together, and to not rush it, and to not, so a lot of that closeness and trying to keep that going. I mean, I think that we, the Michele Brangwen Dance Ensemble, we have a little bit of an advantage in that everybody involved in these projects have been working with each other for a long time. So we we know each other. We have this connection already. Are you using dancers that you've worked with before, Ursula, or some new people, or how did you choose your dancers?
I'm using some dancers that I've worked with before, and maybe maybe 2 or 3 that I haven't, but that I've been friends with for a long time. So the piece is very, I mean, I like to make pieces that are very personal, and this theme is also personal, but I think it's personal for every woman. It's about the decision of having a child or not, for example, right? So I decided that I wanted like different perspectives of what that might be for each of us. We all go through it as women. That is a question that is in our minds at some point in our lives, or maybe in a lot of parts of our lives. And so I decided to invite dancers that I've known for many, many years, and other people that just I encounter on the way during this pandemic, actually. And so I haven't had many rehearsals with all of us together. I think I had 2 rehearsals with 3 people, and then the other one with another different 3 people. And all the other ones I have been one-on-one, just getting a little bit more intimate into what the theme kind of means for them. And then eventually I want to bring them all together so we can have a conversation also about the theme and where we are in our lives. Somehow I feel like this time and things that have changed personally have brought me to a moment where dance means, it has always meant emotions and, you know, internal reasons and choices and all of that. But I think right now, because I have so much more time of that introspection, it's just being a little bit more obvious that I want to go through connecting with people. And so I guess in this moment, it's very interesting that I want to connect more, not as if I didn't, but more when we can't. But I think it's part of what it shows us, you know. It's like a mirror, like the way life is happening right now, and the need for more of that connection. It's I don't know, it's interesting, but I think it's a learning curve really to what's coming next for all of us if we choose to take it that way.
I think for me, it's like I know that I could not stop, you know, like I know, I mean, I've always known that I could not stop and that this was a part of me, but now more than ever, like, this is my lifeline, and this is what just grounds me and makes me have a spiritual connection, or make me, you know, it really brings me to a place outside myself of, you know, the next piece that we're doing is the text is to a Rumi song. To a Rumi poem that Danielle set to music. And, you know, I think that the poem is about forgiveness. And I think we're going to need so much of it going forward, like forgiving each other, forgiving ourselves. You know, it's so, you know, to me, to live in that world of thinking about feelings and emotions and everything, that's where I feel my energy and my life comes into my body and so forth. You know, I guess it's love, or, you know, that current that comes through you, that current of love that comes from doing your work. So yeah. Louis, are you composing during this time? Or I know you said you're doing a lot of teaching.
Yeah.
Really cool.
I think, Anders, don't you do a lot of teaching also? Are you doing some online teaching or something like that?
I mean, I did online teaching, but now we can go to the classrooms.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See here. I actually had a piano student who came here to the apartment today, and we were very careful. We didn't go too close, you know. So we're not quite ready for that. But it's funny because I feel a little bit guilty because I'm not, I don't compose regularly, but sometimes I end up with, you know, I do big pieces. In December, I had 3 big band pieces, about a half an hour music altogether, that were performed in Boston with, in Lexington, Mass, near Boston, with Jerry Bergonzi and Marshall Jilks, it's pronounced. He's a great trombone player, and a big band. And then since then, I haven't written anything. So I really should get into a routine with composing, but I certainly am working on a lot of things at the piano, but more ideas for playing, ideas for improvising, this kind of thing, not so much actually composing, you know. But I think, Michele, you make a very good point, because, you know, I think we all realize now things are never going to go back to the way they were. My guess is that there will be a lot more things online, and we really need to learn how to communicate online, how to perform with other people online. I think this is all, it's just, a lot of this is going to stay, I think.
Well, yeah, it's certainly, you know what, I realized, this is so funny. I realized that we're talking to everybody in their little box, and it's really hip, and but
we're sharing a box.
But we're sharing a box, and my box has been dominated by my voice.
No,
so I should have turned and asked you a question.
Really?
Last week's live stream, I asked him a question about how does a jazz trumpeter play such great funk, you know?
I had no answer to that.
But I know that he loves funk from his you know, from things I've heard him play, and so it was one of my prepared questions in case. So but why don't you talk about the creative process during this time, and what it's like to give your life to a dance company, even though you have your own career at the same time.
Well, how much time do I have? Well, the creative process is constantly, I think with me anyway, it's kind of constantly changing and morphing regardless of what's going on in the world, because I'm constantly analyzing myself and how I absorb everything from the great events that happen in the world to like just minimal events like moving a spoon on the counter and what that emotionally means. So I'm like kind of hooked into all of those things, and I go through periods where I'm incredibly productive, especially if I have a commission, because there's deadlines and also money at the end to induce the creativity. But a lot of times I'm just, I don't seem very creative, but I'm collecting information and inspiration and self-analysis that will later come out, you know. But a lot of what I do anyway is in the improvised moment. I mean, I write a lot of music for small groups and big bands, and once in a while for chamber orchestras. But you know, primarily what I do is just count off tunes and see what happens next. And so, you know, when I practice, I do some maintenance things on the trumpet just to get warmed up, because any instrument's athletic, and I think the trumpet is incredibly athletic in a confined space here with like 107 different muscles that all have to be working together. And so I get those, you know, warmed up and working together, and then I just pretend or, you know, play like I'm on the gig, and I'll improvise for an hour, and I'm not necessarily even playing over a tune or in a tonality, but just kind of playing the melodies of whatever comes next. And so I think that's how I'm keeping my creative sanity in these times, is just, you know, because I can't stand in front of a rhythm section or in the middle of a rhythm section and play, you know. Now, you know, Anders and I have played for years together, and I have to say that, and I've played with a lot of drummers, of course, all over the world, but you know, Anders is like, when I'm playing with Anders, it's like I don't have to worry about anything. You know, because Anders in the middle of like my solo is never going to go to brushes. He's never going to go to a montuna on the fifth chorus of the bridge. And it's not because I've told him or asked him not to do that. He just knows what I want by the way I play. And of course, we've talked about some things, but you know, he's an incredible drummer, and I've probably played my most creative with him. You know, so
I think it's time for me to go to bed now.
yeah.
Thank you for the kind words.
So the fact that he's involved in the dance company is great, because we can do things like the Orchid People, and where the first movement was just drums and dance, you know, and then of course when Thomas added his bass parts, Thomas Helton in Houston added his bass parts to the second and the third movements, then between the two of them I started hearing melodies, and that was very important. And I love playing with Thomas Helton too. And although the three of us haven't played that much together, Thomas and Anders and myself, it felt great when we did. So I knew this would work, you know.
Right, we've done a set of performances together, but
and just this week, Anders recorded a bunch of things for the Rumi song that Michele was talking about. But he also recorded, I asked him to record, for example, a fast blues, just playing drums, and then a song form AABA with a 4-bar tag. Just play like 10 choruses of that form, like Star Eyes, but don't think about Star Eyes. And then I'm going to improvise over those grooves. And I can't wait to start. I heard what he played. I listened to some of the recordings when they sent me the files, and I'm ready to jump in there, you know. So that's kind of a way to replicate in the way we have to do things now. Instead of him coming here or me going to Denmark, this is how we're gonna continue our adventure. You know?
And I am fascinated by, I mean, I was interested in what they call, is the right word, telematic, maybe about, you know, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, which is where you like have a performance and there's some people in one location, some people in another. And there were some people that were experimenting with it, but you needed internet too, in order for there not to be delay. Like they did a thing called Deep Tones for Peace, where they had an orchestra in Israel and then a whole like 10 bass players here. I think they were at Columbia University, and the conductor, there was a conductor in Israel that conducted both ensembles in both locations. And I thought that was really fascinating to like do like the dance, you know, to do collaborations. But I was told that, you know, because of, you need internet too, so that there's no like delay or whatever, because we have this delay and how things, and as we know from Zoom, you know, it's like speeds up and slows down and so forth. So I do think it's really fascinating. But you know, you mentioned something, Louis, in an email to me about, what was it, Kaz Jam or something?
Oh yeah.
Well, I don't, if they're gonna, there's a way to develop technology that that can help us, because Zoom's, I mean, I've done some research, and everything is about like business and conference calls, and you know, Zoom drops frames. That's why when you wave your hands, that's why we didn't show the film tonight through Zoom. We showed it through a broadcast software rather than, but I couldn't find anything like designed for artists and, you know, in that way, except there's something called Arts Mesh, which I want to look into. But
yeah, there actually are a couple. There's one called Jack or Jack something, which is very complicated. It's one of the Tim and Anders, if you've ever used Audacity, it's one of those things. It's what they call open source, and it's just not as easy to use as some other things, but has a lot of capabilities. But there's a commercial one called Jam Kazam, and it's free to try. I just started fooling around with it. But what they say about all these things is you can get, well, the first thing they say is that when we're talking like this, you don't realize there's a lag, because the lag is like half a second. But when you're trying to play with somebody, half a second is plenty, you know?
Right.
It's enough to make the whole thing impossible. You know, Anders, when he plays, as you say, super responsive, he's right there with you. He's not a half a second off, you know?
Right.
So for music, that doesn't work. But I have checked, I've been collecting information. I'm just at that point yet. And everybody agrees that there are these interfaces, they're connectors, which are sell for about $50 that you put. One end is the cord that is a cord from your modem, and the other is a cord to your laptop or desktop. And if you're actually connected by wire through the interface to your computer, then there's almost no lag, or it's, you know, 100th of a second. It's such a small lag, I guess, that it doesn't make a difference. And so I've actually been able to get the lag down to the point where it tells you how much, where there's pretty much no lag. Now I just have to find somebody who wants to try it with me. So I think it can be done without a big investment, but it's a time investment learning about it.
Well, Dexter Gordon had that lag built in. So
He really, I know, he was always like in a measure back, you know.
So there's precedent. We should have an app called, you know, Jam Dexter that takes care of the latency, or at least makes it sound hip, you know.
Well, no, I would love to look into it too, because I could see it would be really exciting to have dancers and people in different locations, and, you know, and be able to somehow, you know, coordinate and bring it together in different ways. I've seen some collaborations, but the dancer was improvising and the music was really ambient. So it was kind of more impressionistic, and the movement didn't have to correspond as specifically to it. But I am really interested in it. We're gonna work with some improvisation in our next. We usually use improvisation in our work, but we didn't do that in Orchid People. But for this next one, the Rumi song, we are going to have some sections of improvisation. So I'm excited that we can restore that and work with that. It's always more difficult for improvisation on film, but I think it's going to work really well, and I'm excited because Yuritzi is a beautiful dancer and she does choreography great, but she's also a beautiful and creative improviser. So I'm glad that I'm going to give her that. We can get to see that creative part of her in the next piece. So well, this has been does anybody, before we close out, does anybody want to have anything else that they want to add to the conversation of, you know?
Yes, I actually just want to say thank you for the invitation and for the talk and the time together, because it's so precious, really, right? It's always been, but right now you can totally feel how precious it is to be able to like talk to people, and not only people, but people that have things in common and that are pushing for maintaining our art form alive, all our art forms alive. I find that it's, you know, right now, one of the things that have come to me through all this time is how much it's important that we not only maintain our art form going, but that we find a way to for people to understand the value of what we do. Because we are all, the whole world is in a time of introspection, if you allow yourself to be there. And if you're not allowing yourself to be there, at least it's a time of stop, right? Of pause. And we are all going to the closest thing for comfort. And a lot of people are going to the arts for comfort, whether it's music or theater or dance or reading or even TV, you know, that a lot of that I don't necessarily consider art, but that is entertainment. And I think we have a big opportunity in this chaos to find a way to tell people what we do and how we do it and the value of it. So as we go into the next phase of this, somehow, some way, get a lot more, not necessarily recognition for an individual, but recognition for what we do. So it's kind of like for whoever is watching out there, a call for action.
Right. Oh, that very well said. Very well said. Excellent. No, it's a good point. It's a good point. I think we need comfort and things that sustain us now, more than ever. And I also think, it's also experimenting with just new ways to engage people, because when you're in a room with each other, you can feel an audience. And if you're in an audience and you see like this great performance, whether it's music or dance or both together, and you can feel the electricity. I mean, I know there have been things that I've heard and seen that have changed my life always, that are really powerful. Ursula and I ran into each other at Pina Bausch, at the Brooklyn Academy of Music, and both of us were almost in tears when we walked out in the lobby. It was so emotional, to see the end of Cafe Moeller when it's just dark, and then you hear those chairs are rattling. Oh, it's incredible. So yeah, there's this palpable, connection when you're there, and I hope that comes back, and I really actually think it will. I just think it's going to be a while before it comes back. And so in the meantime, I think it's great to just explore what can we do during this time to, like, while we're the closed orchid buds, how can we keep the juices going and keep the creating and keep engaging. And then Ursula makes a great point of just the arts were kind of underfunded before the pandemic. So raising awareness for what we do and how important it is to our society, and keep saying that in the dialogue, I think is really important. Well, you're all amazing for participating in this with us. You're incredible. And please keep me posted on everything you're doing, because I want to attend online. So I'm going to sign off, and Louis and Anders, Ursula.
Great to see you, Michele, Tim, Anders,
Likewise.
Yuri, Ursula.
Thank you. See
Thank
you
you.
guys soon. Sending all good thoughts and love. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.